to the stadium to cooperate with the security, because the security is there in order to ensure a hitch-free occasion. And this is their job, and we will solicit the cooperation of the general public in this area.
Momodes Jalo, GRTS.
It started with a trickle, but now they are coming en masse. A number of high-powered foreign delegations are in Banjul ahead of President Jammeh's January 19 swearing-in ceremony. The Swazi Prime Minister and a supersized delegation comprising top officials from Mali, Mozambique and Madagascar arrived late Wednesday afternoon. Delegations headed by the Bissau Guinean Prime Minister and the President of Sierra Leone, Ernest Bai Koroma, are also set to attend tomorrow's historic event. Samuel Ba was stationed at Banjul International Airport, and he now tells us more.
Are bracing up for the fourth inaugural ceremony of His Excellency Chef Professor Alhaji Dr. Yahya AJJ Jammeh. With less than 24 hours before this grand event, preparations are said to be in high gear. The event attracts well-wishers from the sub-region and beyond. Here at the Banjul International Airport, the fourth inaugural ceremony of the Gambian leader, Chef Professor Alhaji Dr. Yahya AJJ Jammeh, is slated for tomorrow, with preparations set to be complete for the grand event. The event continues to attract well-wishers from within and outside the country, as witnessed this afternoon at the Banjul International Airport, where scores of invited guests flew in ahead of the event. First to arrive at the Banjul International Airport was the Bissau Guinean Prime Minister Carlos Gomez Jr. with a high-profile delegation. Prime Minister Gomez was received at the foot of the aircraft by the Vice President and Women's Affairs Minister Aja Dr. Aissatou Njie Sedi. Guinea-Bissau is a close ally of the Gambia with a long-standing bilateral cooperation, and despite having to bear the great loss of a dear leader, they have found time to join the Gambia in making history. Barnabas Sibusi Dalami is the Prime Minister of Swaziland. He also flew into Banjul with a delegation from Mali, Mozambique and Madagascar.
Well, the Gambia is a very good friend of Swaziland. Therefore, we are expecting, to participate and share the joy of the President and the people of the Gambia.
Ernest Bai Koroma of the Republic of Sierra Leone is not new to the Gambia, as he was last seen in Banjul in the very recent past. Sierra Leonean President too flew in with a high-powered delegation. Guests continue to storm Banjul in their droves ahead of what is billed an historic swearing-in ceremony of President Jammeh. Samuel Ba, GRTS.
Information provided by our reporter at Banjul International Airport speak of the arrival of the Speaker of the Togo's Parliament as well as the Moroccan Minister of Youth and Sport, Mohamed Ouzine. We will keep you up to date on developments at Banjul International Airport. We'll now take a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. A new wave of fighting between rival tribes in the South Sudanese state of Jonglei has claimed more than 50 lives, and 5 European nationals have been killed in Ethiopia's northern Far region in an attack. Authorities in Addis Ababa blame on neighboring Eritrea. For more on these and other stories, respond to CFI.
A new massacre has occurred in South Sudan. 51 people were killed on Monday in fighting between rival tribes in the state of Jonglei. The tribes accused one another of kidnappings and stealing cattle. The United Nations has launched a massive humanitarian effort to aid some 60,000 Sudanese affected by the violence. Intense fighting broke out several weeks ago. Hundreds of people have been slaughtered in mutual reprisals. 5 Europeans were killed late Monday night in Ethiopia. The attack occurred in the northern Afar region, popular with tourists. The victims included 2 Germans, 2 Hungarians, and an Austrian. 4 people were also wounded and 4 others kidnapped by the attackers. The Ethiopian government accuses neighboring Eritrea of being behind the operation. Eritrea has denied responsibility. U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton visited Togo on Tuesday as part of a 4-country tour of West Africa. The aim of Mrs. Clinton's visit is to encourage governments to continue democratic and economic reforms. During a 1-hour meeting with President Faure Gnassingbé, the discussion covered bilateral cooperation, the fight against terrorism, drugs, and piracy. President Gnassingbé later introduced Mrs. Clinton to his former opponent, Grts Olympio, leader of the Union of Forces for Change, which is today taking part in the process of reconciliation.
Good.
The recent oil-related strikes in Nigeria are putting a strain on the black market fuel supply chain in neighboring Niger. Regular petrol stations in Niger are doing brisk business. The price hike caused by the Nigerian government's removal of fuel subsidies is affecting the unconventional fuel outlets. We have more in this report.
In the streets of Niamey, bottles of black market petrol have disappeared from outdoor stands. People from Niger are having a hard time finding illegal petrol now. The black market petrol came from Nigeria, but with the price hikes there, it is no longer much cheaper than petrol bought in regular stations. And so suddenly, regular petrol stations are doing well. Among the most satisfied customers are taxi drivers. We ignore the fact that the bootleg petrol can do some damage, first to our cars and then to the economy of the country. So, as taxi drivers, I can say that we are very happy with this new situation. And yet people in Niger believe that station prices are too high, especially when the petrol is produced in Niger. The government tries to justify the situation with the locally produced petrol. The government has set up a pricing structure chart. This is meant to balance out the interest charges that we pay on the money we found to invest, to pay back the investment loans, but also to help the rural population obtain petrol in Niger. Since the petrol refinery in Zander began operations, Niger does produce its own petrol. The crisis in Nigeria has been thus a positive thing. There is much less black market petrol and local consumption has doubled. But can this situation last? Nothing is less sure. If the unions succeed in lowering petrol prices, the illegal product could once again become very interesting.
We'll take a second break. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and before we go, a reminder of our headlines. President Jammeh speaks on peace in the Taiwan Strait, saying Taiwan's policies towards communist China have the potential to bolster stability. The Prime Ministers of Swaziland and Guinea-Bissau, as well as the President of Sierra Leone, Annette Bai Koroma, have arrived in Banjul ahead of Thursday's historic event. The ripple effects of the removal of fuel subsidies by the Nigerian government push black market fuel dealers in neighboring Niger out of business. An ethnically motivated violence in South Sudan's restive Jonglei state claims the lives of at least 50 people. You can also follow that story and other Grts programs live on our website at www.grts.gm. There you can also monitor